Okay, this is the senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Mark Regev, and listen to him tell you that if Palestinians are allowed to have a state of their own, then what should be the conditions for that according to Israel?
Should the Palestinians, if they have a state, should they be able to sign, let's say, a military agreement, a military treaty with Iran? Should they be able to have an army, an air force? Should they have all those military powers that could theoretically threaten the state of Israel? And the answer, in our view, is clearly no.
Firstly, the language here about if Palestinians are allowed to have a state of their own and the conditions that are being laid by the very people who are actually occupying the Palestinian land, who are literally living on the land of the Palestinian people. I mean, the audacity. Also, Mark, would you be at all and explain to me, why don't the Palestinian people deserve all these rights when Israel has been enjoying them for decades now, while simultaneously breaking all the human rights laws known to humankind and perpetrating a genocide? Secondarily, who the hell are these people to dictate Palestinian people and their government who to have strategic and political relationships with and who not to? Also, this should be an eye-opener for all the people who rally behind the two-state solution idea, because this is exactly the kind of Palestinian state that Israel has in its mind when it talks about two states. A Palestinian state that has no control or autonomy over who to have strategic and political relationships with, a state that has no military, a state that has no control over its borders, a state that has no autonomy over its water resources, a state that has no control over its air or water space. And all of the people who keep talking about this peace accord or that peace accord and how so many times the Palestinians were offered a piece of their own land and they refused it, make him sound like a bunch of people who do not want peace and actually choose to live the way that they live, when in reality, in all of those peace talks and accords, the lands that were offered to the Palestinian people were all barren and low yielding, while Israel kept all the fertile land for itself. But Israel either did not agree to or did not follow through with ending the illegal settlements, and in fact started to build more of those. Also, Palestinians were not allowed to have control over their airspace or autonomy on their water. In fact, an Israeli politician who was a part of those talks later said that if he was a Palestinian, he would not have signed that agreement.
David was not the missed opportunity for the Palestinians, and if I were a Palestinian, I would have rejected Camp David as well.
And listen to what this guy has to say about the Oslo Accords himself.
Yitzhak Rabin, the Prime Minister of Israel, who wanted to make peace with the Palestinians, who was the Prime Minister at the time of the signing of the Oslo Accords, he gave a speech, and he was very clear. He said that the Palestinians will have less than a state. Yitzhak Rabin said, the man who was shot for his efforts to move forward on the peace process. He said that the future Palestinian areas will have to be demilitarized. He said the Jordan Valley, that area on the eastern edge of the Palestinian territories, would have to remain under Israeli control. The idea that a Palestinian area will have to be demilitarized in any future settlement, that's common sense.
And most importantly, if Israel can have relationships with USA, the state that has been responsible for single-handedly disrupting peace all around the world from Asia to Middle East and in between, the only state that has actually used nuclear weapons on another people, the imperialist empire that has been waging wars based on lies all across the world for fuel and other resources, killing millions of civilians, the same USA that has been funding this genocide and has been supporting Israel with billions of dollars, which have been literally stolen from their taxpayers. The Pentagon just failed its 6th audit in a row. There are literally billions of dollars that are completely unaccounted for, especially when it comes to the military expenditure. I mean, in third world countries, it's called corruption and theft. I don't know what white people call it. And why does Israel get to have all the monetary and strategic help and support from the Western countries when it is internationally recognized and known as a violator of the human rights, as responsible in displacing the Palestinian people from their homeland and as an occupying force? I mean, this is not my opinion. The human rights organizations all around the world and the UNO accepts it as a fact that Israel is an apartheid state. So after decades of this Western-funded and supported aggression of Israel and its crime against the people of Palestine and their land, it does not come as a shock that the Palestinian people are no longer ready to trust any Western country or many Arab countries for that matter, and some of their own leaders who have betrayed them in the past. And they are also not interested in accepting the crumbs that are being offered to them by the same forces who have been actively involved in the occupation of their land, the displacement and killing of their people, and funding an active genocide against them right at this moment. Neither are they interested in accepting the same states as mediators who have been enabling and normalizing all of this all through these years. And Palestinians have been saying it since forever that the two-state solution was not a suggestion, it was rather a concession that they were willing to make in hope of some peace. And they're way within their rights when they say that they are not going to accept anything less than the dismantling of the apartheid colonial state, their land back, their right to return back home, their right to have a sovereign country of their own where they can live with dignity and in peace. I mean, this is the least that should be done. And USA and all the other supporters and enablers of this apartheid regime owe the Palestinian people huge reparations.